5 to 3.8 on our pH coming out of the unit as condensation. It's pretty corrosive. We do make 3 different kinds of neutralizers based on how many units you install. You install 1 unit, it'll be the unit on the left. Up to 6 units, the middle unit, and then up to 16 units, the largest unit. So now it all depends on what you guys do for work. If you're an installer, maybe you want the large one, so you only have to install 1. If you make money on servicing, maybe you want 16 individual ones to service every year and charge the customer for 16 service of 16 different individual units, right? So the options are there for you. We make a pump controller. I know last year Economy ran a special on it for us, okay? It's for circulators only. We don't make one for zone valves yet. The plan is to go ahead with one eventually, but right now it's just circulators. It gives you the same options as all the other brands and then some more. Again, I'm not sales, so if you want to know, you can ask me about it afterwards, okay? We have the H2 Air kit. Now this is becoming very popular in the larger cities, especially Boston, okay? Because of money, and it's always about money, guys, let's be real, okay? We are certified that you can do an open loop heating system with a water heater, okay? Using this kit, we give you domestic priority and outdoor reset capabilities when you're using a water heater with an air handler for a single zone heating loop. You are limited to BTUs, all right, and pipe lengths, stuff like that. And you know the state code, this controller, we have to have our pump run for every 6 hours for 3 minutes in Massachusetts because of that water in the coil becomes stagnant in the summertime and develop diseases, right? And it's potable water, so you don't want that. So this controller can do that. You can program it to meet whatever state requirement. And again, Mass is 6 hours every 6 hours, 3-minute runtime of the pump to keep that water from stagnation, okay? So we meet the state code for that. And that's a typical picture. You would have to add a mixing valve on the domestic because you're going to run the water heater at higher temperatures to provide heat. However, if you're the same company that's doing the air handler, you can actually design the system to use lower temperatures with an air handler. You don't need 140, 160 degrees. You can use it, design it for 120 degrees. Then you won't need a mixing valve, okay? Now, common venting. We've always been able to common vent. So Navien decided to say, hey, let's be able to say our vent system is certified. Well, it's a good thing because nobody else is certified like we are, but they put limitations on us. We can common link the cascade 16 units together, whether they're boilers or water heaters, okay? However, they put a limit that we can only common vent 8 in a system. So that means if I do 16, I'm gonna have 2 separate vent systems. Intake and exhaust for 8, and then intake exhaust for the other 8, or a combination, okay? Only 8 maximum. They also require a damper, which this is. You have to buy it separately if you're gonna common vent. You take the damper, the collar off the Navien, throw it away, or put it in your truck, put this one in its place. It has a door. See the door on the right? You can open the door, and now you can see the position of that damper while it's running. And that was the requirement to get certified. We have a damper in our unit. It's staying there. We're not removing it, okay? Now, this is all for units dated after October 26th of 2016. Anything made before that, you do not need to do dampers. And I'm quite positive that all our distributors rotate their stock and that they're out of the ones that do not need this, okay? It's not retroactive, okay, or anything. Past units are fine, you did it right to the manufacturer's instructions at that time. It's just anything current, you now need this. Only if you're common venting. If I hook up 5 units and decide to individually vent them, I do not need this. Now the only good thing is, it will come with the cable that you're gonna need anyways. Okay? And I think it's around $39. So you're gonna get the damper and the cable. So when you're done with the job, you'll have 1 extra cable. Because you need 1 less cable than you do actually dampers, right? So just look in your manuals, it explains it in detail. And this kit comes with an awesome pamphlet and it gives you the common vent sizing. We lose a couple feet off our venting because of that added resistance of the damper. All right. So please, any common vent charge that you may have, please throw them away, and then keep the new one. Okay, and it's on our website too if you want to see it. And as we meet with inspectors, we're letting them know about it as well. We've always had for a number of years now an anti-scale system to prevent lime buildup and stuff inside the heat exchanger. It's not a filter. I know it looks like one, but the chemical inside, the water absorbs it, and it makes chemicals inside water stay in water solution when it's heated. So you all know as you heat water, chemicals come out of water, and it sticks to the heat exchangers. Because Navien is all stainless steel, it doesn't stick as easily as other brands. And the fact that when we make hot water, we only make the temperature you're asking for. Some other brands heat higher temperature and mix the temperature down. We don't do that, okay? This is the newest thing out. We've had a rack for about 3 months. Heavy duty steel, you put it together, bolt it to the floor. If you don't have wall space, you can mount the units back to back or in a line. And then the past 2 weeks, we've now introduced a manifold set, piping, all done. Gas, hot, and cold. It's coming with the gas pipe, all the gas valves, full port ball valves. The commercial grade stainless steel gray coated flexible connectors for gas, and then stainless steel water connections, okay? With all the clips and the unistrut you see there, you can either bolt it to our rack or bolt it to a wall if you're not using our racks, and then pipe it all in. There are 5 different kits. You have 30 different ways to install up to 16 units. You guys that do commercial, it's gonna save you a lot of time on the job, okay? I didn't do that. I promise I didn't. I don't know what happened. I didn't do it. Any questions on any of this stuff? No, nobody has a question.
The controller for the outdoor reset on the air handler,
Yeah.
you were saying you don't have to run 140 degrees for an air handler, or am I mistaken?
No, you can design the system to use lower temperatures.
Yeah, but minimum for a coil for an air handler would be 140, right?
No, you can design it to use 120.
Heat?
Yeah.
Okay, under heat from 120?
When you use the right size air handler, yes. BTU is a BTU, you can't change that, right? I can heat this room with candles, right? I'm just gonna use a lot of candles.
Yeah.
So you're gonna use a larger air handler, right? As long as it adds up. They all, and I look, they go down as low as 100 air handler charts.
Yeah.
Start at 100 degrees and go up to 180 degrees. And it tells you what the BTUs are based on that temperature. Baseboard does the same thing. Okay, all heat convectors have a chart. You don't have to use 180. We have to get away from that on new construction jobs, guys.
I've already seen 140.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Most air handlers, the design is 140. Okay? Where you can use 140, we're going to condense all the time at 140. But you can also use lower temperatures. Then you get away from the mixing valve,
Right.
right? So because you know that the lead-free law is really screwing everything up. Everything's gone up in cost. So, oh, it didn't show. I thought it was up on the screen. Current slide. So this is the kit that you get. It's gray epoxy coated 1.5 inch steel pipe, and then the water pipes are 2 inch with the tappings in place to go to the units. You got your braided gas connectors, your braided water connectors, all the clips and unistrut. Your valve kit is included with it. Okay. It comes with a cap for one end of the pipes. I believe it's a cap. Yeah, iron cap. So it's a pretty cool deal. Okay.
Just for 5 together?
What? No, we can do up to 16 based on the kit you buy.
You can buy a kit for 2, 3, 4, 5.
Here's your 5 kits. Okay? You're gonna do side by side, 3 side by side, 4, and then back to back. So if I was doing 16 back to back, I'd have to buy, what, 4 of these? 4 of these kits in assembly. Okay, with couplings. Now, The only thing I am gonna mention, if you look at our sizing charts, when you have 8 units, you must have a 2-inch pipe, okay? Which is what we're giving you. If you have 10 units, you need a larger pipe. So you would come down in between the 8 and the other 2 and split your main pipe. Let's say 16 units requires a 3-inch pipe. I would have to come down, I don't know how many guys can, over here, see the space in the middle? Up here, guys, I don't know if you can see it. They split it, so now you come down with your bigger pipe and split 2-inch, 2-inch each way. Do not connect on the end and expect 16 units, because it's gonna limit your gallons per minute, because of your pipe size. Okay? You cannot squeeze any more pipe, water in a pipe than it allows. So that's how that works. But that's the kit. Now we're done with sales stuff. What are you more interested in to concentrate on? Combi boilers, water heaters?
Commies.
Combis. That's what everybody usually says. It's great. Combis have recently changed too. Anybody install one in the past 3 months? Anybody who, so everybody didn't raise their hand, has not. Okay? We have the NCB, okay? It recently changed to the NCBE. E means evolution, if anybody cares, okay? So, here's the inside. Oh, not yet. This one. The only difference is your cover has latches that take the cover off. No more screws, okay? The second change is the pump inside is made by Grumpus for us now. We're buying the pumps from Grumpus. We are not making the pump anymore. The only downfall is the way Korea makes the pump and the way Grumpus in Germany makes the pump. The wiring is not compatible with each other. So anybody who has a combi NCB parts kit, you're gonna have to add the second pump because they are not cross-compatible with each other. So your kits are gonna have to have 2 pumps. One for the NCB and one for the NCBE, okay? Yes?
Why did you change the pumps?
To be honest, they didn't clue me in on that. I have my own theories, but I can't. Anybody had issues with pumps in the past could figure that out. All right? Enough said? So that's the only change, is the pump and the cover. Other than that, not a single thing has changed. BTUs haven't changed, parts in general have not changed other than that pump. So whatever parts kit you have for NCB, all of it fits except for that pump. All right? Now, the combi is our only product that's residential only. We have water heaters, the NPE series. Residential, commercial, same thing. Boilers, NHBs, same thing. Residential, commercial, same unit. The combi is residential only. And it's single residence. That means one apartment, one single family home. The reason why, anybody know why? The system's domestic priority. Whenever domestic hot water flows at a half a gallon a minute or more, there is no way you can possibly get heat because it's shut off. And you'll see how in a minute. Okay? We actually shut the heat off and concentrate on domestic. So those of you guys who do sales need to be able to communicate with the customers and find out how they intend to use their hot water. Yes, it's tankless. You can run it forever and not run out of hot water. But you won't have heat that whole time with a combination boiler. Now that we have another option of a boiler, maybe that particular house needs a boiler and a water heater separate so they can run both systems at the same time. So you need to have that conversation. Yes?
So you're saying that you would have a single family have 3 bathrooms?
You won't be using this unit, it's too small. My largest unit, the 240, as you'll see in a minute, can only do heat for 2,500 square foot and only 2.5 bathrooms. If it happens to have 3 bathrooms, you either go to boiler and water heater separate, which you need 2 water heaters anyway, or you can add a water heater to a combi. That's the only thing you can ever add to a combi is a water heater. You cannot add another boiler or another combi, only a water heater. Right? And we're gonna see how to do that. Back to apartments. If I have 200 units in a building, as long as each apartment has its own, it's perfectly legal, as far as warranty goes. Okay? Because everybody always asks that. if I put it in an apartment building, as long as each apartment has its own, you're fine, it's serving a single apartment, right? As far as boilers go, it does residential and commercial, same with water heaters. If it has 2 families or less in the building, it's considered residential, okay? Somebody's renting out the second floor as a separate apartment, right, and they use the same water system, that's fine. Once you go over 2 apartments, it's now considered commercial as far as Navien's warranty goes. And it's the same unit, residential, commercial, we just change your warranty from 15 years to 8. That's the difference. All Navien equipment that has the 2-inch vent collars on the unit itself are field convertible to propane and back and forth as much as you like, okay? The previous models, it's important for you to know, the 3-inch vent collar, the CRs, CR, CC, NR, and NP water heaters, and then we have the CH combi boilers, right? Those were 3-inch vented. They are not field convertible. If you come across a propane one and they now have natural gas, unfortunately you have to throw that away, buy a new one. But if it's a 2-inch vented unit, you can convert it. Hopefully the kit, it was in there when it was sold to whoever, inside the cabinet, but you can get kits pretty readily. Okay. So here's our heat rating. It's very important with Navien equipment to use the spec sheets. Do not go by the model name, because the model name has absolutely nothing to do with the BTUs of the unit. All right? Our model 240 can only do 120,000 BTU of input on heat. The 150 and 180 guys, be extremely careful in New England using those units. They are gonna work their little asses off. And when you work the shit out of something, it doesn't last long, does it? Be very careful, just follow the specs. As long as you meet all the specs, you'll be good. If you try to stretch them, because of cost, obviously everything's about money, you're gonna lose. Our cold waters and our winters are pretty cold. You want a unit not to run 100% every friggin' time it turns on. That's not how they're designed to run. Get the proper size so it runs properly. Now with tankless, you cannot oversize tankless. It only runs based on the flow rate of the hot water. I could put 16 units in my house. Not more than 2 would ever run at the same time. They'll all run eventually, because that's how Navien's system works. They will all run. So over time, they will all run equally length of time. Same with boilers. Our boiler system is the same. Okay? You oversize it, only 1 or 2 run, the others will run in this eventually, but never all at the same time. That'll just make the system last even longer. And then you have the redundancy, right? Do you guys think outside the box when you talk tankless, or you only think about residential? You know the money savings commercially? Look at schools, breweries, dairy farms, ice skating rinks. Have you ever seen what they fill a Zamboni with? They get 2 or 3 giant gas-fired hot water tanks to fill a Zamboni once an hour. Tankless can do that. One tankless can do that. Just how quick do they want to fill it? That will tell you how many you need to have. In New England, we do 5.5 gallons a minute in our largest water. Anybody know what the tank is in Zamboni? I don't know. Just curious. On the domestic side of the system, though, we do use the full BTUs that the units are available to make, because we're heating groundwater temperature up to set temperature in a matter of seconds. Okay, so we do use a lot of BTUs for domestic. It is a tankless. That means a half a gallon must move through it to turn it on for domestic. You know there's a lot of lab faucets being designed and used today that are only 1/4 gallon flows. That could be an issue, so you gotta look into that. Building owners, especially the new buildings that are going up everywhere, they get points, they call them leads points. They get points on insulation, on water heating. They add up all these points, they meet a certain number, the federal government gives them rebates for building the building that way. So they're gonna, you know, it's very important to know that. I don't know how many of you guys are plumbers, not just HVAC guys, but that's a question to ask on new construction. Are you planning on using low flow faucets? Because they're gonna have to change, right? because half a gallon is standard in the industry. However, there is one model of a brand that can run with no minimum flow rate. Does anybody know what brand that may be? Well, since I'm the Navien guy, wouldn't you think it would be Navien? But it is. All right. The Navien A model water heater has no minimum flow rate, has no cold water sandwiching, and no delay in getting hot water, which is the complaint all tankless, including our S model, which is similar to their models. Okay. So please, again, look at the BTUs. Don't look at the size of the unit. It's just a model name. Okay. The unique things about Navien over our competitors, one of the biggest is our gas pressures. I can run as low as 3.5 inches, and we know in the city of Boston that's an issue because they only guarantee 4. Okay? Our previous models only ran at 6 inches or higher. Now we can run down to 3.5. And if anybody ever decides I would like you to continue on and go down to New Jersey, we'll actually show you that my unit can run and give heat and hot water, not at full capacity though, all the way to 1 inch of water. Standard cast iron boiler or standard gas-fired water heater cannot run at 1 inch. I can. Again, not at full capacity, but you'll get something. Better than nothing, right? The other unique thing is the 2-inch venting. We'll talk about material later. Right now we'll talk about size. 2-inch, 60 equivalent feet. That's quite a long ways on 2-inch. The best part of this system is that they do not have to go to the same atmospheric pressure wall. So they both don't have to go that way. I can go this way with one, that way to one. Or up through the roof of one and in from the side. And they're not the same lengths. And it's not 60-foot combined length of both pipes. It's 60 and 60 that you're available to use. And there is no minimum. Right? So that's pretty cool. If you can't get out of a building in 60 foot, you can go up to 3-inch on the vertical over the unit, and now you can go 150 feet on 3-inch. Okay? Now if you plan, the venting is PVC, so it's 0 clearance. You can touch wood. New construction, you can actually run it through the house inside the 2x4 walls and come out higher. So they don't have to see the pipes down low or smell it or see it like some people, affluent people, let's say it that way. Affluent people don't want to see that outside their house. Right? Plan ahead. The warranty is 10 years on the primary secondary heat exchangers. 5 years on everything else. And you know that flat plate heat exchanger, that's a replaceable part, that's 5 years. Only the primary and secondary heat exchangers 10. And is everybody in this room aware of the 1-year labor? If you replace a part directed by tech support within the first year of it being installed, you're eligible to get paid. Okay? It's a flat rate for labor is $150. Okay? So if you call tech support and they tell you, hey, replace that fan, you get the fan for free because it's under warranty, and you can get a check for $150. Yes, you got to do paperwork. Right? Put that RGA number they're going to give you on a form, send it to California, they send you a check. All I can say, the first time you send it in, send your bill in, download a W-9 form from the internet, because yes, they are going to 1099 you at the end of the year. So the quicker you get them that form, because otherwise you mail them the form, they'll mail you the W-9, you mail it back, it takes extra time. Send it all together with your first bill. Now you're in the system, you get checks in less than 7 days. After the first time. The heat exchanger. When the heat turns on, the pump is pushing the water through the heat exchangers. That's key. I'm going to ask you some questions about that later. When it comes out of the heat exchanger, it goes through this 3-way valve. Okay? That's the valve that decides where the water goes, either domestic or heat. Right now it's doing heat. So inside that 3-way valve there's a piston. Once the flow sensor spins at a half a gallon, the computer tells it to move and block off the heat. So that piston slides down. It's got an O-ring on both sides of it. It slides down and blocks the outlet, which is the brass connector there. And as it slides down, it opens this side port. So now, that water hits the three-way valve and gets redirected. The pump is never shut off, okay? It just goes through the, and you're done. Now, if you're designing your heating system and you're running over 160 degree supply, okay? Most of us run at 180, right? You are gonna get a spike in domestic hot water in the winter time only. Because when I make domestic water, if you ever were to pull up my supply temperature, you're gonna only see between 160 and 165 degrees for me to make 120. If I'm not, in the winter, I'm making 180, and I only use 160 to do domestic, when it switches over, that 180 goes through the flat plate, and it overheats your water. We've seen as high as 138 degrees. Now, depending on the fixture you open to get it to switch, if I open the tub, it's gonna cool off very quickly. Most likely, you're not gonna notice it. If I trickle a faucet because I'm shaving and wanna rinse the shave, it's gonna take 2 to 3 minutes to cool off enough. Yes?
And that's on the back end of the cold sandwich too?
Cold sandwich, you're gonna get with the combi. If you shut the water off and turn it back on, you are gonna get a cold water sandwich. Is everybody familiar how that works? Because I work on flow, if I shut a fixture off, the unit shuts off. My wife jumps in the shower, feels hot water when she turns it on, but yet the unit has to restart. So some cooler water, it's actually not cold water, it's just cooler, goes through because the heat exchange is still hot, right? So it's just not what it was. If it sits for 15, 20 minutes, now it's gonna be cold water. Okay? Yes, that's on top of that. All right? It only happens in the winter because we're using higher temperature waters. But as you guys learn to start installing systems at lower temperatures, that'll go away. If you design for 160, that will never happen because that's the temperature we need anyways. So we're not gonna overheat the domestic. And more inspectors are being aware of this. There are some wholesalers who won't sell a combi without a mixing valve on the sheet. Whether you use it or not, this says it once. Okay? If it's elderly people or children, I would suggest maybe using it. Okay? Otherwise, explain it to people so they're not shocked what's gonna happen. The flat plate is stainless steel as well. Okay, so there's a very reoccurring theme with the Navien. In the combi boiler, I don't have room to add a water adjustment valve the water heater has. I need to be able to control the flow to get to your temperature, right? Water goes through too fast, I can't heat it. So we put a disc inside each unit. It's already pre-installed, so you don't really care about colors because it's already in there. Why you would want less, I don't know. So once you get above 30 PSI, they all pretty much flatline. So that's our key pressure, 30 PSI. You start deal with wells. You want to make sure your wells are higher than, you're not using a 20-40 switch, right? 40-60 and 15-80, whatever. So be aware of that, 30 PSI and higher. The disc is mounted right into your water screen, okay? On the cold water, on the water heaters and the combi, on the cold water inlet, there's a screen. When you pull out the combi screen, your disc is mounted to the end of it, so it's much easier to service. Yes, there are services to these units. The water heaters, the boilers, the combis. You must visit them every year. Well, somebody must. You guys that don't do service, you're missing the boat. Okay? It's very simple. You can be in and out in 30 minutes. Now, flushing is not required in the warranty terms. It is talked about under maintenance. And now if you read the water heaters, anything over 135, you've got to set the anti-scale error code, the alert. It's an error code 760. So every year, 760 will pop up, the homeowner calls you, that's telling you it has to be flushed. Because the hotter you make water, the more the chemicals come out of solution. We do not want the customers to have issues. So we want to prevent them from happening. And that's what this is all about, okay? Flush them. It's recommended. I'd like to say it's required, but it's not. It's recommended. If you don't do it, that's fine. Eventually, your customer's gonna have an issue with hot water. You're gonna call tech support, and they're gonna look at temperature in and out of each heat exchanger, and see the heat exchange is not good, and tell you to flush it today. So either we're gonna tell you to flush it, or you just do it to prevent us from telling you. And that means you prevented your customer from having an issue. Do you want your customers to have issues? No, right? Now, on the heat side, we must be piped primary, secondary piping. Okay? There are a lot of theories on how to do it. As long as you follow the hydronic theories and you make your own, it'll work properly. Most people don't do it right. So what did Navien do? We made our own. Okay? End of last year, you guys all know, DGI, David Gooding, not Navien, ran a special and they were giving them away to the end of the year. Then when, I guess it worked out well, because Navien decided to cut the price in half. Okay? So they're very reasonable to use. I don't see why you wouldn't. There's no way you can make this unit less money than what you're buying it now. It's impossible. It's inch and a quarter. If you're doing a single zone, just put reducing couplings on the end to the pipe size you need. Okay? This elbow is not here anymore, by the way, because we put the relief valve on the unit itself. We changed some internal piping. So you're going to put the relief valve on the unit in the back left corner. Shut-offs to isolate the boiler, and then hose connections to drain it, to flush it, or whatever you may need to do without affecting any other part of the system, which is awesome. Okay? So now when you use this, it doesn't matter if I'm running a single zone, multiple circulator zones, multiple zone valves. It's all taken care of. Supplies go off to the left, the returns come in on the right. What pipe, what pump sizes you use, I don't care, because it is not going to affect my unit in any way because of that manifold. If you decide to make it yourself, I hope you followed hydronic principles, because you will affect the unit. You can blow O-rings, you can blow circulators, you can blow three-way valves if you don't pipe it correctly yourself. I strongly, strongly suggest you all buy the manifolds. Is everybody buying them? Nobody wants to admit it. Now, you're all familiar, we have an automatic feeder in it. It's a pressure reducing auto feeder. Everybody use that? Has anybody tried to fill a system with it? It's not going to fill a system until tomorrow. It's a 3/8 tube, and it fills up a little bit and shuts off to let the pressure sensor sense what's going on. Then it does it again. So, there was an issue with the way you guys purge, and usually it's not the guys that come to these classes, it's all the other dummies that don't come because they know everything. If you purge through my heat exchanger, most likely you're going to ruin the water pressure sensor, and you're going to have a failure. So we don't want you purging through the heat exchangers. We actually relocated the position of the water pressure sensor on our side to help prevent it from failing. Now we need your cooperation by filling it and purging it the way I'm about to describe. Okay? Is not the manifold usually always your lowest point of the system? Should you not have a drain at the lowest point? So you're going to start putting a T with a draw off here. Okay, that's going to serve as your drain. But it's also going to serve as your feeder when you initially fill. Because you're going to take, you know, right next to there, the supply and return, you got a hot and cold. Well, on the cold water, there's a hose connection. Take a washing machine hose temporarily out of your truck. You hook it up to the cold water, hook it up to that draw off, shut these two valves off. Now you don't have to worry about the pressure relief because it's on top of my unit and you just shut it off. So now you can very easily purge all the air and mostly contaminants. Once the air is out, let it run for another minute or two. Make sure you get all that extra flux, the Rectoseal, the Teflon tape pieces, little solder balls, flushed out. Okay? Do each zone. Once it's full, now you can put the hose away. You're going to open this feeder, these valves, so the water can go in the unit now. You're going to open the cold water feed to my feeder, plug it in, turn it on. The word air shows up. That does not tell you, that does not mean that there's air in the heat exchanger. It's telling you it's going to do the air purge cycle. We have a cycle built into it. We're gonna purge the air out of the heat exchanger all by ourselves. You just gotta sit back, you can start cleaning up your tools because you're almost done now, right? So, over the pumps, depending on which unit you use, the NCB has a Cleefy air vent on top of the pump, a little piece of pipe off the pump. The Grundfos, they're making a air vent for us. They're both float vents. Alright? You need to open the caps, they come closed. So no air will come out until you loosen the cap. Now what happens is my pump runs for 1 minute, shuts off for 2. Runs for a minute, shuts off for 2. That's normal. Okay? What it does is when the pump comes on, remember I said it pushes into the heat exchangers? Well, what's on the way into the heat exchanger? That black thing there, that's the water pressure sensor, which is now on the top of that elbow. It's not on the side anymore. And we made the elbow funny shaped. You look at it, it looks funny. There's a baffle to prevent water from directly going into it with contaminants that's going to plug it up. And that was the issue we were having. They were plugging up. So we relocated it to the top and added that baffle to try on our end to prevent it from happening. Now, as long as you purge it this way, you'll prevent it on your side. And we won't have that issue. I should say your customer won't have that issue. All right? Every time you want to check the pump real quick to see if it works, call for heat. When the pump turns on, my pressure reading should go up 7 to 8. That's it. When you shut the pump off, it should drop 7 or 8. Whatever it goes up, it's going to come down. Because there's air in the heat exchanger, it's being compressed by the pump running through it. When the pump shuts off, the air re-expands and pushes back. The sensor senses that and knows there's air still in there. It's going to continue that cycle. Once the air is eliminated, now it'll shut off, the air will disappear, and the unit will fire up. We do not want the unit firing with air bubbles in it. The heat exchanger is such small, it will heat up so fast, when the water comes by that bubble, moves the bubble, it flashes to steam. Right? What happens when water goes to steam? It increases in size 40 times. These little passageways in this heat exchanger don't have room for 40 times the size. If you get a big enough air bubble, it's going to pop the heat exchanger, right? Make sense? So that's why we want the air out. Anybody ever get an O1 error code? Because they rocked the switch. They didn't want that air. They wanted it to fire up, so they start on and off, on and off, on and off. Eventually it overrides that system. It doesn't do it. O1 error code is boiling in a heat exchanger. It's not listed in our error codes. Why? It's that important, you need to call us to say, hey, what is this error code? It's not in your list. Well, we need to fix that right away, because that can be dangerous if you don't get the air out. That's why the cycle is there. Let it do its thing, please. I know you want to go home, it's late in the day by this point. It's only going to take 8 to 10 minutes. You got to start picking up your tools anyway, so you might as well do that while it does that. Air elimination is not required by Navien, it's required by basic hydronic closed-loop heating system rules. You know how many people try to eliminate some of this stuff? Because my unit, look at it, it only holds 1.25 gallons of water. That's it. Oh, I don't need expansion, it doesn't hold any water. Well, when you start adding up all that baseboard and piping, that's a volume of water that's going to expand. Okay? Now in the cities, I'm sure you guys run across big cast iron radiators a lot, right? We like them because you can get a high delta T with them sometimes, right? We like them. However, your standard 30 X-Trail tank is not big enough. I get at least 1 call a month. The relief valve keeps going off. And I always ask about radiators upstairs. Yes, I have them. Well, what size tank do you use? 30, like we always do. Well, it's not size right, guy. Okay? Check on that. It's size based on the volume of water. Air handlers. Again, we just talked about that. It's very, very prevalent on new construction apartment buildings because you're getting heat and AC at a very competitive price using all the same ductworks. The combi boiler is the most awesome replacement or insulation for that system because heat and hot water are separated. They do not commingle the same water as if you use the water heater, which we can do. It's less money, and you're gonna get less warranty, but it can be done that way too. The ideal way is this way. Now, this is called direct connect. You notice there's no manifold on that picture? There's no added pumps, and there's no pump relays. So you can save, what, $700, $800? Think of a building with 100 apartments in it. That's a lot of free money that you save. However, just like anything else, there are exceptions to it. You must not need more than 40,000 BTUs. Why am I limited to 40,000 BTUs? I don't care what size combi you use. Why am I limited to 40,000? Sorry. Pipe size, guys. 3/4 inch pipe is only capable of 40,000 BTUs. And we use a 3/4 inch pipe. Now, the 50 feet. Why are we limited to 50 feet? That's the head pressure of my pump. However, the good thing is now we're buying a Grumpus pump. That Grumpus pump we're using is a 3-speed pump. If you put that pump into speed 3, that increases the pipe length to 100 feet. Now, you say 100 feet to an air handler, that's a long distance. This is equivalent foot length, so that means you need to count the 90s. Anybody know what a 3/4 copper 90 is in straight length of pipe? What it's equal to? 4 feet is the actual correct answer. So you are very close, okay? That example on the board, that's 32 feet just in fittings. It's amazing, isn't it? They need to be near each other. If you want to put it across the other end of their apartment, let's face it, a lot of people put the water heater in a closet on the balcony and the air handler right inside the door, right? You need to put the manifold and add a pump, because that pump's going to take care of that added piping. My pump is just going to do the manifold. Okay? It works fantastic. You just need to know which way you're going to go. And we work closely with architects and engineers who design those buildings for that. In replacement jobs, sometimes the air handler already has a pump in it. So you can do the same direct connect, but now you've got to throw a bypass tee in, so each pump can pump independently of each other. You can joke like I do, it's the half-assed primary secondary. There's no math or science involved, just throw a T, as long as the branches look at each other though. That's the important. You can't put it on this end here and have the run go up to that pipe. It won't work. You just screwed up hydronic flow. Okay? The branches of the T's must face each other. Anywhere in this pipe. You can go down here if you want. Wherever it's easier for you to do. Okay? Anybody understand why we need to do that? Let's say the air handler pump can only do 3 gallons a minute. My pump does 5. Well, if this can only take 3, where's the other 2 gonna go? Through that pipe back to my pump. So this will always flow 3, I will always flow 5. It's that simple. That's what hydraulic separation is. And that's what our manifold does for us. Okay? Combination boilers, you have a conversation. Maybe you just replaced the water heater for a guy, right? Now he wants to talk boilers. Well, you know, you just put it in, so why sell him a boiler only if he plans on going tankless later? Sell the combi, hook up the heat, you just don't hook up hot and cold pipes to it. It'll never transfer over to do domestic, it'll never see flow because there's no pipes to it. And in the future, the tank dies 5, 6 years from now, run the hot and cold over, tie it on, now you got both in the same unit. When you do hot water only, you don't need a boiler right now, it's a little more complicated. Now that you know the 3-way valve and the pump has to run in my unit, I probably shouldn't need to tell you, you already figured it out, you need to connect the supply and return together. I would suggest you buy the manifold and buy ball valves for the end of it. Because if anybody, you do this, try to take those fittings apart in the future when you're going to add the manifold in. Navien does not give you enough pipe through the bottom of that cabinet to put a backup wrench. And I don't know about you guys, have you ever tried to take off a female adapter that's been heated and cooled a couple of 100 times? We've had people tear the unit, the metal cabinet apart, because you put a 2-foot wrench on it, you're standing up, you can't see underneath, it moves, but all you're doing is twisting the metal all up and breaking the components. And it's happened several times. I would strongly suggest you put the manifold on now and just buy ball valves. That way, while you do the heat work, they can still run hot water, because you're not draining it, you're not shutting it off, you're just doing your piping. You purge it all out when you're done, open the 2 valves, you're all done. Right? Let's, this is a good spot, the pizza cane. So there's sodas in the bottom of that where the water is. So if you want water, they're on top, sodas underneath, and there's pizza on the table. So please, help yourself. I'll have a piece, and then if you don't mind, I'll talk while you still eat. What's that? Thank you very much. We don't need to do this.
That's a 3-inch couple line, but about
On 1 inch, right? It's 4 times the diameter between the 2 teeth for that zone. When you go to the next zone, it's supposed to be 8 times the diameter. So that's 8, 9, that's 10 inches before the next teeth. But you're wasting a lot of money, and you're going big. You use the manifold. Now you can put the teeth. There is no spacing requirement. You know, that's the only advantage. What's your company's name? Yes. Yeah. Have you signed in yet? On the, not on the paper, on this. Do you have your cell phone there? You're gonna enter, go to your, yeah, up here on the top. Want me to just enter it? And you can fill it out. Sometimes I have a magic figure that works the first time.
Yep. So I wait for the guy to come back and three repeat.
There it is. That worked the second time. And then, what's that? And the return something. Oh, you're doing it very right. Yes. Yes. And there's a black steel pipe and passing in it.
Yes.
It should be listed like that in the manual. Yeah, you haven't got to talk about it. It is. Right. But now you know you're not going to get a call back. Let me tell Tim we need some. Yes. Have you signed up? Not on the paper, on your phone.
You give me the estimate.
Well, do that and I'll make sure you get one. Where's Tim at?
They can run that one. I mean, after, but that's what was those are the ones before, or the ones doing one right now. There's one from 3 8
Don't be shy, there's 2 more full pizzas here.
What are you doing? What do you need to do?
Oh, there's more. There's more than 2.
Yeah, the bubbles are big. They have that in that rebate for the way. We're not safe. Same thing, what? We keep on out those out, but same thing.
Maybe in the future.
Tim's gonna grab some folders as soon as he's done.
Yeah.
They even pulled you out of the woodwork.
Did you call tech support? Would have had it solved then. Did you flip it? Without flipping it, it will never go over 100.
I didn't install. Somebody else installed. I just wanted to check.
Was that combi or is that just the wall?
Yeah. We're gonna go through that. These two right here, these gentlemen. We did. Oh, we did, okay. All right. I opened it up for a minute. Click up there. Now.
Yeah, they put the bills.
Yeah.
Top floor is on fire.
I know you need to get gas first, right?
With a torch. Wow. Yeah, we got it.
I got the magic finger.
I know you are.
We're doing level 2. You hit submit, and it went through.
Yes. Oh, that's a good chip.
I'm on the road shore. Quit.
I've always wanted that.
I'm surprised you have the shit in your truck.
I know. That's amazing.
Andy gave me a
Was it Dell?
He was gonna go do it, but then he got called.
Of course, but it doesn't matter, somebody else has it. So easy it doesn't.
Oh, all right.
Are you guys doing a job right now with the apartment building with Navien?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, guy?
Ron called me and, Quarry Street. 500.
I've been to one of them. It must be one. Just finished.
Yeah, that's Quarry Street.
He's starting to been to one.
Starting one. You know, the branch is splitting is this.
Yeah. Oh, that's building is great. Yeah. It's a hill.
That's
I'm just going. So
Oh, really?
And I'm like, well, going.
You doing copies or water heaters?
Chris and Mike.
They're actually doing, I saw, I don't like Ale, Smith.
Yes.
Walnuts. Oh, why?
Whatever, and I'm like,
Mike. Yeah, I've been out to Quarry Street a few times. Had some type of thing on. One at 2 p.m. It's raining.
Yeah, they take it fast, well,
And then put it on the bus, and it was set up.
yeah, then you're gonna get a fan.
Remember the tombstone, every day.
Taking away from the house. Hang it up.
Whatever you got, he's just on.
Those pumps got internal check valves in there.
Sorry.
With the internal check valve, you know, you just lost it. Regardless if you lose a pump. Same as no doubt.
Steel, you can't do,
Because you can't override the check valve, so you can't get flow.
I believe like.
he's like, dude, I don't know. Apparently they're, oh yeah, he's calling me this morning, like, the turns to the gang.
It's the same.
Alright. Everybody full? There's more pizza. Some houses like to have recirculation to get hot water faster. On a new job, if they mention recirculation, I would probably consider a water heater, the A model that does recirculation, and a boiler separate. If they already have a combi, you can add recirculation. You gotta add some more components though. You gotta add a timer and an aquastat along with the pump. Because remember, when domestic water flows, you have no heat. So we set a timer for it to recirculate, and then the aquastat shuts it off. If it's within the time that's set, and the aquastat cools off, it'll run again. And that way we can get back to making heat sooner. Okay? So it can be done. It's not ideal, because you lose your heat. You may want to do a water heater with the recirculation pump built into it for the water, and then a boiler separately for the heat. Okay? So you gotta, again, have those discussions. Figure out how they intend to use the hot water in the property. Figure it out from there. The most common installation though, as somebody mentioned, 3 bathrooms. Where is he? He's not even there, right? Must be in the restroom. So a combination boiler's on the right, the water heater's on the left, okay? If you have a 2.5 bath house, the minute I decide I want a rain head, or I want a body spray because I have an issue with my back, you're beyond 4.5 gallons a minute that the combi can do. So we add a water heater. You must also add a solenoid valve. It's a normally closed 120 volt valve, okay? Why would I need to shut the water out of the combi off instead of shutting the water heater off? Why would I need to do that?
Slow the cool water down.
What's that?
Slow the cool water down.
We're actually shutting it off.
Combi is the leader.
Combi is the leader, but
I got a question.
Oh, question, okay.
So there's a limit to how much flow you can have before it's not hot anymore, is what you're saying?
No. You will always get hot water out of Navien when it's running. You'll just get less pressure or volume of water.
Okay.
If I try to run 6 showers on one unit, I'm gonna get my 120 out of every shower, but it may just dribble out on me, it's not gonna spray on me. Alright, we limit your volume, not your temperatures. You'll always
What
get
is
the
the
temperature.
limit? Like, what if you had a big jacuzzi tub and you had a tub fill it? Would it take forever to fill it, just because that thing's...
Well,
going down?
4.5 gallons a minute at 120 degrees. If it's 100 gallon tub, divide 4.5 into 100, that's how many minutes it'll take. However, if you look at a tank, unless you have a big tank, you're not gonna fill the tub anyways. So I'll fill it, it's just gonna take longer, right? The reason why I need to shut is the size of the heat exchanger. Remember, a combi, I use a flat plate. If I could stretch the flat plate into a straight pipe, it'll be this long. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. If I was to straighten out the heat exchanger of an entire water heater, it'd be this long. So the water always goes to the shortest length, which would be the flat plate. So I shut it off, so now the water has to go through the water heater. It does most of the water heating work. Now I can get heat and hot water simultaneously. As I open more and more fixtures, the water heater ramps up, ramps up. When it hits 80%, it'll send a signal through the cable down to that valve, hey, open up, I need some help with hot water. So if I can throw 5.6 gallons a minute through a water heater, and then 4.5 from a combi, that's 10.1 gallons a minute for that, hey, in case job. And back to the whirlpool, I want to bring that up again. I don't know about you guys, unless it's the really big mansion houses, right? But most places, when you look at a plan, it says tub, it says shower, you do the rough, and then you go to do the finish, and oh my God, there's a whirlpool there. The faucet's there, 30 gallons a minute. Are you going to get 30 gallons a minute through the half-inch pipe that you ran to it? So that doesn't matter. The pipe size run to that fixture is what matters. If he didn't run 1 inch to that fixture, he's not getting 30 gallons a minute out of that spout, right? So you look at the pipe sizes, especially in new construction. I'm sorry, old construction, remodels. Because most likely the pipe size running to that bathroom isn't big enough to give you that flow rate anyways. So, you know, hot water is the hardest thing to size. It's not a science. I could have a house with 18 bathrooms with just me and my wife in it. Do I need 17 water heaters? If I intend to have all those people living with me and having all 18 bathrooms run, but if it's just me and my wife, are we going to be able to use all 18 bathrooms at the same time? So that's why conversations about how they intend to use the hot water is very important. And then if you do have a system, oh, you got 6 bathrooms, 2 people live in there. As long as you told them about it and they only want 1 because that's all they're going to use, get them to sign that you told them, because later on they'll always say, oh, you didn't tell me that. But hey, I did tell you that. If you want to run everything, we need this much. If you just want enough for you and your husband, this is all you need. Piece of cake. Right? You know that, pay me now, I'll pay me later. So, gas piping, you know what? I really don't care if we're the first T. I bet you if you open any brand gas appliance, it says we want to be the first T. But if you properly size your piping, it doesn't matter where the T's are, because it's properly sized. Now, Navien boasts half-inch pipe. We've always used and been trained to use the half-inch pressure drop chart. 200,000 BTUs is not allowed to be run on half-inch pipe. So how can we say that? Well, when we accepted the NFPA 54 code in Massachusetts, it eliminated that half-inch pressure drop chart as the only chart to be used in Massachusetts. So now we can use all the charts in the book. One of them is a 3-inch pressure drop chart. Using that chart, that allows half-inch pipe on a 200,000 BTU appliance. Only 24 equivalent feet of it, but half-inch, okay? However, an exception to everything, you must start with 6 inches of water column at the meter coming into the building for the math to work out, because I need 3.5 entering my unit, right? Now, are you gonna run half-inch If you're running a gas line, are you gonna run half inch to a water heater? No. But if you have a building and they have a water heater you're taking out, you're putting tankless in, and it's half inch, right? Now maybe you can keep that and don't have to repipe anything. You still gotta verify from the T to the meter size properly, because you're adding a lot more BTUs than that tank is. Right? If that main is big enough, keep that half inch drop. That's why if anybody used our old NR water heaters, the gas was on the right. Well, now it's on the left because that's where tanks are fed from, the left. Less piping for you. And because of the venting, now you don't have to move the unit like most tankless brands. You were moving it to the outside walls because that venting was probably special venting. That was expensive, made by them. So you wanted it as short as possible. And then you moved the hot and cold and gas over because that was easier and cheaper. Now you don't have to move it. Especially now we have for that rack. You can mount the rack to the floor and hang it right in the same spot. Your gas is there, your hot's there, your cold's there. 2 2-inch pipes, any direction you want, you're done. Propane, I'm sure you don't see much propane in the cities, right? All you gotta know is if you ever go to the suburbs, we can't have a single dual stage regulator on our system. It's for above ground tanks. They'll have you need to put a regulator on the tank, well the propane company does, not you. And one on the house, and there's a little piece of copper in between the 2 stages. We will work just fine. If you do a dual stage, it looks like 2 regulators in one housing, I will not work properly. I can go up and down faster than that thing can react to it, and you run out of gas. That's all you need to look for. Converting it, because you don't see propane, we're not going to go in detail. I'm telling you, it's so difficult, the first time you ever do it, it's going to be about 8 minutes of your time, that's it. And the combi is the hardest one to do. Then the boiler, and then the water heater is the easiest, because nothing's in the way of the gas riser. This one, it's only difficult because the computer's in the way of the gas valve. Now, for you guys that do work on these units, just so you know, there are no 2 connections that are the same on this entire computer board. Every single connection is different. So don't be afraid if you want to actually move it out of the way, you can disconnect it. I generally just let it hang, okay? No problem. At the top is where your plate goes, your conversion plate. Your conversion plate looks like that. It's oval shaped, and there's 2 screw holes in the middle of it to hold it in. See how the screw holes are slightly to the right side of the plate? That's by design. Because now if you put that plate in backwards or upside down, those screw holes will not line up. So in essence, you can't mess it up unless you intentionally do it. And then we'll know that. Right? Now, just because you changed the plate, what else has to be changed? Yes, the dip switch tells the unit's propane, but what does it physically do to the unit? If I change gas flow, what else has to be changed? Airflow, right? It actually speeds the fan up slightly. Propane is a heavier, more dense gas than natural gas, so I need more fan speed. My units actually suck the gas into the unit, so we do not, rely on pressure. That's why I can work down to 3.5, because I'm drawing the gas in with my fan. My fan modulates, unlike all other brands who do not do it that way. And that brings us to a venting issue. Okay? Flat bay vents that all the architects and engineers are in love with cannot be used on Navien. Okay? The trick around it here in the city is you put one of them, you buy 2, one on the intake down this end of the building and one on the exhaust up on this end. Keep them far apart. You don't run both pipes to the same vent because it will cross-contaminate, and that's what we want to prevent. Okay? We changed the airspeed. My fan at minimum firing rate is at 400 RPMs. That's 18,000 BTUs. When I ramp up to 200,000 BTUs, that fan is now at 6,900 RPMs. You know the difference of the volume of air coming out the end of the pipe? How does it like to run? Well, you don't open everything in the house at once, do you? You run one fixture at a time. It's running in minimum most of all the time. 400 RPMs, that air doesn't go away from that intake very far, does it? That is the issue. Please vent them as far apart as you can. Just because the book says 12 inches apart doesn't mean you have to do 12 inches apart. Go further apart. You're only going to help the unit in the future. If you allow the exhaust to come back in, I don't care that it's carbon monoxide or whatever that's in it. I care that I'm a condensing appliance, so that means there's acidic moisture in that air. That's what's going to hurt the unit. Sucking it back in through the fan, which is not made of materials, but it's acid. But what affects it even faster and easier is the ignition probes, the igniter, and the flame rod. Now you end up with 03 error codes, which is ignition failures, and 12 error codes. 12 error codes is flame loss, and that's because the igniters and flame rods have been eaten away, and they start failing. When it's running, you look in a little window, and you look to the right towards the igniters and flame rods. When they're running, they glow really bright orange like that shirt. You can actually see the pits. Well, you shouldn't, but you do. That's caused by exhaust coming back in. If you're on a propane, now you're going to decide, is it exhaust or is it the gas itself? Because propane gas is very corrosive by itself. Natural gas is not. So if you're on natural gas, the only reason to have pits on those two items is exhaust. The proper thing to do is to relocate one of them so that doesn't happen no more. Right? Converting. This is our gas system. We use our fan, actually pulls the gas in. Right? The air goes through this venturi, and as the air goes by that plate that has the holes in it, it draws the gas in. Faster the fan, the more gas. Okay? Here's what the internal parts of the venturi look like. So we got the plate and two holes. On lower modulation rates, this butterfly valve in the venturi is closed. I can control the volume of air and gas through this cavity here. And air is drawn through only one hole, because only one hole is exposed to the airflow. As it ramps up and ramps up, the valve now opens fully. Now I deal with a much larger volume of air and gas. And we use both of the holes now. As the air goes by, it pulls in the gas. It's very weird to see, if it ramps up, that you just need a little bit more BTUs. This valve opens and the fan speed drops. Because remember, I go from 400 to 6,900 RPMs. And when I run out, I need more. Now I open up and it drops down to 400 again, if I just need a little bit extra. Right? Make sense to you now? It sounds really weird when you know, hey, I'm getting more BTUs, but the fan just dropped in speed. That's normal. Okay? And you know what? In tech support, we can actually operate this valve, right? Because you can test when it's supposed to switch. You can figure it out if the valve's not working right by operating. When it's supposed to open and it doesn't, you know it. Okay? You just work with tech support. They tell you how the buttons to push to get it to open and close manually. You don't wait for it to do it automatically. And then you see the difference in your flame. And now you know, hey, there's an issue with this. Or not an issue. You can prove there's an issue or prove that it's not. And then we can look up fan speed, right? These units are smart now. We can go onto the control panel on the front and I can pull up the fan speed and see what the fan speed is. And it actually will tell you what the target is. And then you watch it. Does it reach the target? Now there's an issue with the fan, right? So there are two ways to check the unit. It comes factory set for natural gas, but as you guys found out on that job, sometimes it's not correct, right? Isn't that what you said, the combustion?
Yeah, I mean, I use a combustion analyzer on a few of them.
Yeah. Well, that's one method, okay, it's a combustion analyzer. I don't know if you had a hard time when you locked it in the high, keeping it running.
Yep.
Okay? You always do low fire first. It's easy. You need a lot of domestic water running. And you have to lock it. Otherwise, your reading will never steady out, and you can't get a reading because it's always going to move on you because it's doing what it's supposed to. So we can go to the computer, right, on the boilers and flip a switch. On water heaters, you do it through the control. It's a lot easier because the computer's hidden away. You've all noticed that? The computer's hidden away in the plastic housing. It's easier to do it from front. Lock it into low fire, see what your reading is while it's running. Good. Now you're going to check the high side. You need a lot of water running. And remember, every fixture in the house has a flow restrictor in it. Depending on the job, you hook up a nice hose underneath and run it outside. Now you can control it. You don't have to run all over the apartment or the house or anything, turning everything on. So then you check it in high fire. I find it personally, I'm not that smart, I use a dual port manometer, okay? Because I only have to do low fire only. I don't ever have to check high fire when I do it this way. So now you can run that hose and know that it's not going to overheat and shut off on high temp and then I have to wait for it to cool and restart. It just takes a couple extra minutes. Did that happen to you? Did it heat up and shut off?
Yes.
Yeah. If you do it with a manometer, that won't happen
I
because
use
you only
that.
do the low fire.
I use that.
Yeah. Okay? And it's just a matter of flipping the switch in the right position and you lock it steady. Right? And you should give it some time to steady out because it's going to modulate down or up depending on what you do, a low fire, high fire. Let it do its thing, and when it steadies out, you can hear it, then you know when to do your test. Okay? It's very important. It's the second port on a gas valve. These are needle screws, so you just loosen it up. You don't remove them. They won't come out, actually. There's a stop in there. Just loosen them up, 3-4 turns, slide your hose on, and see what the reading is. The bottom one here is the pressure coming into the unit. That's where we need to make sure we're 3.5 or higher. Vent materials. The units come to protect the PVC venting. The boilers come with dip switch number 8 in the down position from the factory. You put it in, don't know about the switch, you program 180. The unit fires up, you check, 180's going out. Let it sit for a half hour, 45 minutes. Did anybody ever wait for it to complete a cycle before they leave? Usually not, let's be honest. Well, when it heats up and the returns finally start rising, because that's what happens in a heating system, right? When the returns start rising to its 149, my computer's going to protect PVC piping. It's going to start dropping your supply temperature. It will not allow the return, which is also the exhaust temperature, to go over 149. So at a 20-degree delta T, that means I'm going to limit your supply to 169. You'll never see more than that go out of the unit. Okay? In order to go higher than that, you got to go to the computer board, dip switch number 8, you turn it up. It tells the computer to ignore the exhaust temperature. Once you touch that switch, you can no longer vent with PVC pipe. It must be CPVC Schedule 80 or polypropylene, which is that gray pipe on that unit here. It's simple. This is polypropylene. It's high temperature gaskets with clips. Very lightweight, easy. It's good to 230 degrees. Sorry, 230 degrees. It's actually designed as an exhaust pipe. CPVC Schedule 80 is gray in color. You glue it. It's rated to 195, but it is not designed as an exhaust pipe. This is too, but not as expensive as that. This is easier to work with, lighter. You got to hang it more because it's more flimsy because of the gasket clips. The other stuff costs more, but you can run it further without hanging it as much. So either way you do it. Now, water heaters. My water heater, when you put it in a commercial application like a brewery or a dairy place, right? They need 180. I can make 182 degree water. Right? If I have cold water going in and hot water 182 coming out, do I have to worry about my vent material? No. The cold water keeps the exhaust down. Now, they decide I don't like waiting for the water to get hot down there, I want a recirc loop. Now, once you add a recirc loop, I no longer have cold water cooling the heat exchanger, right? Because it's recirculating, it's hotter water. If your water is going to be over 149 degrees, recirculating back, you've got to change the vent on a water heater as well. So, those systems, you want to design 160 degrees, you're going to have to use CPVC pipe. Because your returns are going to come higher than 149. Right? So that's another reason you want to keep low temperatures. I've seen air handlers running at 180 because they try to boost the, oh, I want more BTUs, so they raise the temperature. Now you just screwed yourself on exhaust. And a smart inspector, because I was at the Bristol County Inspectors meeting last night. I had 22 inspectors that we talked a great deal about this venting. I haven't talked to anybody in the Boston area yet. But as they learn about it, you guys are going to be starting to get hit about it. Do not install the wrong materials. Okay? The key temperature is 149 degrees. Returns or recirculated water. Okay? That's the key. Anything over that, you can't use white pipe anymore. But if I'm not recirculating on a water heater, I can make 182 degrees and not have to worry about the vent. Okay? Everybody understand this? It's critical.
So as long as you don't touch that dip switch, you're good with white pipe.
Yes. But we're going to limit your supply. Remember that.
But the machine's gonna do that. So-
The machine's going to do that. Yeah.
And then the group of inspectors and everything you talked to are good with that?
Well, I brought up, because I've been where inspector says, I don't care. They're like, no, we go by what's written, and I wanted to say, you guys are so full of shit. You know how the state works. Every town decides what they want to do themselves. And these guys all acted like they only followed the book. I was biting my tongue, believe me. That's the thing that happens, though. You gotta, just because my book says that, I mean, obviously you can fight them and win. Because Mass says, go by the manufacturer's instructions, and if it's unclear, you go by the code. So, go by my instructions. Now, my instructions on that high temp material say it only has to be for 3 feet. So after 3 feet, now polypropylene, that stuff there, they do not allow you to transition to PVC. They don't even make an adapter.
No, they don't.
But CPVC, you can just glue with the proper glue. You can glue the gray stuff to the white stuff with the proper glue. Okay? So that's the only stuff you can actually do with Mass. Concentric, this is the only style you really want to use. And don't install it on a lakefront house with the wind blowing at it. All right? Relocate it if that's the case. You want to prevent the exhaust coming back in. That's it. I use 2 pipes because I can get them further apart. But you are limited sometimes, right? 60 feet, we are allowed 6 bends per pipe only. A 90, a 45 is considered a bend. A 90 on 2 inches, 8 foot. Doesn't matter, pressure 90, long sweep 90, doesn't matter, it's 8 foot. 45 is 4. If you increase to 3 inch, now it's 8 bends per pipe and you can go 150 feet. So that means if I use 1 elbow with 60 foot length, I subtract 8, that means 52 feet of pipe I can use. That's how you do it. This is your maximum, you subtract down from there. This concentric is considered 5 feet on both pipes reduction. Okay. Now the next slide, we can have some fun. Oh, that's not the next slide. I don't know where it went. Our terminations. This is where everybody screws up. When you go to a Navien service call, I would suggest you look at 2 things outside before you go in. One is the gas meter, because you all realize the gas meter is sized as well. And especially with water heaters. Boilers not so much, but water heaters, you gotta check your size of your gas meter. And then you wanna find your termination. Where is the intake and exhaust? That could solve your whole issue of why you're at that house to begin with. Okay? See, my exhaust is straight. Why do not I have a 45 or a 90 facing down like all the other brands require?
Suck it back in.
Because they come back into the air.
Yes, that's part of it.
Yeah, they come back.
They're worried about rainwater getting in the vent. They're all up-fired systems. So when they go through the heat exchanger, it leaves the unit. If water came down that pipe, it goes into the heat exchanger. Navien is a down-fired system. But I do vent out the top, so I go down through the heat exchanger. When it hits the drain pan on the back, there's an exhaust duct behind the heat exchanger. And that's what goes up and out the top. So any rainwater, plus I condensate in my own pipe too. That all runs down an exhaust duct and leaves the unit through the drain on the bottom. There's no way that water can touch my heat exchangers or my burner or something. That is why there is no maintenance to the burners and heat exchangers. They do not come apart, they are not serviceable to you. They're self-cleaning, we call it a self-scrubbing. We use the fan pushing everything down with gravity, and then the condensation washing the walls. And that's why when you pull your condensate plug that you should do every year, you empty it out, it's gonna have black muddy stuff in it. Okay? Please don't put fittings facing down. You know, some guys say, well, that's why I use a 45, it goes down and then up, away from the intake. Well, that's not the case. You all know what an umbrella looks like, right? It's curved down all the way around it. Put it on the ground upside down and tilt it back at 45 degrees. Is there still not some coming back? That's where your intake is. We need 12-inch separation. See over here? Everybody misses this part. 12 inches apart, 12 inches apart. From screen to screen. We want the exhaust higher than the intakes. The air coming out my pipe is warm to hot. It goes up naturally, it will not go down. Okay? So you want that height difference so it goes out and up. Why you force it down? Don't. Let it go out and up. And you can snorkel 290s up and out because of snow levels. That's allowed, but those two fittings have to count towards the total of 6.
And the minimum outside, when you take it out, it has to be at least, what, oh, they say it's a foot now?
We say it was 12 inches above ground or anticipated snow level.
Yeah.
Whatever
12
your inspector enforces. I live in Brockton, Mass.
Mhm.
They said 42 inches is where we want
Yeah,
it.
more than 42 inches from the ground.
Yeah. And that's because it snowed out that day and they measured a drift. That's how they got it. And that's what they'll tell you. If it didn't snow that day, it would have been less.
But according to you all, 12 inches to the manufacturer.
Yeah.
12 inches.
Yeah.
But according to the inspectors, they want 42.
Yeah.
Just like they did a proper vent or something
Yeah.
on anything else.
Correct. This is that picture. Now, we've talked about flat vents aren't allowed. Recently, they keep putting this stuff, we don't test it. We have a CSA and AGA, all those testing agencies, they do the testing. So we keep giving them these things. This one finally passed. It's been tested before and failed, but now this time it passed.
It passed?
This one, it's made by IPEX. Now IPEX makes about 8 different ones of these. See it says 2-inch kit and a number, and then 3-inch kit? It better have that number on it or it fails.
Oh.
And when Navien has an issue, and you have an issue, and they see a picture, they're gonna wanna see the model number. And if it's not that model number, you're on your own.
'Cause I've used them.
As long as it's that number, you're good.
Okay.
Now, I don't see personally how, because, I don't know if you can see in the picture, there's a little nipple where the exhaust is. It's actually not flat, there's a little nipple. That makes a world of difference, I guess. So it doesn't cross-contaminate, right? That's the only difference between all the others. It has that little nipple on the exhaust part sticking out. You guys, you can use it if you want to. It's approved by Navien to use. Just in my head, I can't figure out how it can pass.
But like you said, the concentric is the better one then.
Yeah. And then now there's a bunch of these now. This is the most edition Duravent polypropylene that company makes. Okay? There's about 4 different ones of those. There's, what's the other company that makes it? Duravent and, it's going by my head right now. Common vents, you all know a concentric, the pipe goes inside the pipe before it comes out the other end. Well, we have some people who don't know that and they use a drainage fitting, as you see in the bottom right. Alright. Now, just to take a side note from this, I'm going to show you something. So, when you do that, the unit will try to run and it blows up. Think of how a unit works, right? This is brand new, just turned on. when the unit goes to fire, right, the fan happens, the spark happens, the valve opens. It doesn't light in 2 seconds. The fan stays running, everything else shuts off. It thinks it's sending air outside. Then it goes for another ignition cycle. So it adds more gas this time. And it'll do this 2 or 3 times, each time sucking gas back in as it adds gas. Eventually, you got a delayed ignition, it goes boom. Okay? So that's what happens. That's why I'm a plumber, not a computer. So that's what happens when you tie it together. Has anybody made the mistake? Nobody will be in it. You get a little reverse in the basement, like you do with hot and cold sometimes. The intake air is always the branch of the fitting on a concentric. The exhaust is always the one that goes straight through. Okay? That'll help you out from getting confused. Now the drain, you're all professionals. We're acidic, do what you must. We will eat concrete, we'll ruin bricks, we'll eat brass, cast iron, copper in no time. Yes, it looks really cool, everything being copper, but it's not gonna last. Okay? We have some guys use PEX piping, but they use the brass adapter. It gets eaten away pretty quick. All right? Now, the only thing I'm gonna tell you about the drain, please do not use anything smaller than 1/2 inch. Prior to the most recent Navien condensate neutralizers, all neutralizer kits give you 3/8 tubing and a barbed adapter. The problem with that is, my units, when they're in condensing mode, I can make 5 gallons an hour of water. 3/8 tubing doesn't drain that fast. So it drains and fills up. When the drain pan fills up and the air can't get through, because remember, I go down into the drain pan and back up, it shuts the unit off because there's a blockage. And there is, it's full of water. By the time you show up to service the unit's been off, not making water, so it's all drained out. And now you're scratching your head, can't figure out why it shut off on that error code. It's a 110 error. When you check everything and everything's clear, check the size of your drain. Our own neutralizers, we give you the 1/2 inch now. We changed it because this guy who had the issue that we found this out at used our neutralizer. And he's like, well, it's your equipment. So we changed it. We don't give you a 3/8 anymore. We give you a 1/2 inch. But the other brands of neutralizers don't, because they work on all kinds of equipment too, right? So just be aware of that when you go service and you see a 110 error code. It means an airflow problem. Of course, you're going to check your pipes, your screen, and all of that. And if you can't find a problem with any of that, please just check out your drain. It's probably that, okay? That's what ours looks like. The terminals on our computer board. We do have a 120 volt terminal, and that's how it's marked. It's made specifically for a solenoid valve. It's not made for a pump. It's not made for a pump relay, a zone valve relay, or anything. If you're not using a solenoid valve, please do not hook anything to it. Okay? Same thing on the other side of the board, the low voltage side. We have a low water cutoff connection and a 24 volt power for a low water cutoff. It cannot run an S thermostat or a power steering thermostat. And it can't run a zone valve. We've had guys try that too. It does not have the amperage in that computer board to do that. What happens is it burns the computer up. You call Navien, you troubleshoot, okay, we're going to send you a new one. You get a new one, you put it in, another month or two, it burns up again. Now you call. They're going to say, oh geez, we just sent you a board. Send us a picture. And they're going to see those extra wires, and you're going to be buying them. Okay? You guys do AC too? HVAC guys in here? We have terminals. the air handler terminals in our boilers. Please don't use them. It's that simple. Don't use them. They were designed to shut the green wire off, which controls the fan in an air handler. Because we do domestic in heat. If we do domestic, why have your fan going if we're not providing heat? The issue is, everybody has air conditioning, means they have a coil outside, a condensing coil. We can't shut that off. So what happens when you leave your condenser running and you shut your fan off? Big ice ball, right? Now you got nothing. Don't do that. Most air handlers are smart themselves. They have timers or sensors in them. Why do the same job twice? Just ignore mine. Plus, this diagram is what's in the book. You look at this quick, the electrician thinks, oh, thermostat, Navien, everything goes to Navien. If that's not the case, everything goes to the air handler. I only need the end switch, and that's it, and the green wire. So this splice is actually done over there. So please don't use it. It's too confusing. You've all heard of what's the place? Giant place. It'll come to me. My daughter goes shopping. Yes, Assembly Row. Who said that?
Yep.
They had issue with trying to do this. They had to rewire all 400 something units. Dip switches. They are current different colors. You guys notice that? I don't know if the guy's colorblind who does this job in Korea, but 6 and 8 always. 6 on the left, 8 on the right, always. Colors may be different, but 6 and 8. First 6 come factory set. 1 and 2 operate your burner. 5 and 6 tell it what computer it's in. Computer board. What heat exchanger it's using. All right. The beauty is the same computer board fits all 4 sizes. You just tell it what size it's in. Okay? Please don't be creative and buy the small unit and adjust it to be big, because the heat exchanger is still small. You'll have different issues. Okay? And vice versa. The second set, we can control the board, the computer, to monitor and maintain temperature at the return side if you want to. Most people don't, right? But sometimes you have a system, you want to do something creative, and you can tell it to maintain and monitor on the return. And when you walk into a unit, you don't have to worry about taking the cover off and looking at these dip switches, because there's an icon for that. You've all seen the combi run, right? Temperature, pressure, temperature, pressure. You ever notice when the temperature shows up, to the left there's an R and S lights up too? Return, supply. And there's arrows. Return got an arrow up, supply got an arrow down. Only one of them lights when that temperature shows up, and that's telling you what it's monitoring. So now those numbers make sense when you're troubleshooting. Okay. Oh, exhaust. Number 8 is your exhaust. If you need the returns to go over 149, which means supplies over 169, you have to flip this switch. And then you cannot use PVC anymore. Only on the exhaust. Okay? Under the control now. Only way to see these switches is to take the cover off. The cover hides them. When you take the cover off, now it's exposed. There's a little rubber flap that you have to open. Use a pen or a knife. Your finger. Being contractors, I doubt you have fingernails. You're not going to open it. Okay? There's a bunch of switches. They all do something. Well, most of them do something. We do Fahrenheit and Celsius. My favorite one that's going to get you out of a bind a lot is well pump. I'm going to ask you today to turn it on every single combination job or water heater job. Turn it on. It was specifically designed for houses or buildings with well water. Unless you have that constant pressure system. Pressure changes, flow changes every time that pump goes on and off. If you open a faucet and just watch it flow, you can see the change. Well, if I work on a flow sensor, that means now burners are going to go up and down, temperature goes up and down, right? I can have a 4-degree swing. Now you think 4 degrees is not bad. Well, what if I tell you it's actually 8? Because it's 4 degrees above and 4 degrees below your set temperature. 8 degrees still ain't bad, but an anal person in the shower, and somebody else uses water, sorry, I just gave away the question. The well goes on and off, they may complain that there's temperature fluctuations, right? Well, if you turn this on, it eliminates that. The burners still go up and down, but they act lazy, they go slower. Now I have a 1 degree swing, which actually is 2. Nobody will notice that difference in the shower. Now, I go a step further today. Use it in city water as well. Why would I use city water? Isn't that constant pressure? Well, if I'm in the shower and somebody starts playing with a faucet, doesn't that do the same thing a well does? Because nobody leaves water running anymore. Everybody's water conscious, especially hot water. Do you leave the water running? No, you shut it on and off, especially if you're washing dishes or preparing food. That's going to cause the same symptoms. So why not just turn it on all the time? And you're welcome when you talk to tech support, you're verifying switches, and you say, I got 3 on. They say, oh no, shut it off. You don't have well. You're going to say, no, I'm leaving it on because Paul Feeney said. If you don't understand the benefit it's doing for me, you call him and he'll discuss it. And I'll be glad to discuss it. Because remember, I come from the field. I'm a contractor too. I listen to those whiny customers. And I know what this can do for you. Use it. Okay? It can only help you. There's no way in hell it can hurt you. Alright? Just turn it on. And it's in the manual. You don't even have to, look through the manual. It says number 3. It's well pump. On a water heater, it's number 5. But it still says well pump in the directions. High altitudes, we don't have to worry about that in Boston. Right? Gas, we already talked. Outdoor reset. You guys have been buying Naviens lately? They come in with it now. You notice that? We're giving you the outdoor resets. However, here's the key to this. Has anybody bought it and put it on? That we gave it to you and you put it in. Okay? Well, even if you did, right? You buy one tomorrow and put it in, wire it. It goes on the shady side of the building, northwest side. You can use up to 500 feet of 18-tooth thermostat wire. Tie it to the pigtail and plug it in, because it's going to look like this. Just because you plug it in and wire it and all of that, my unit will never recognize it because it's turned off in the computer. You actually have to go into the computer and turn it on. And guess what else? There's an icon for that. So when you walk in, you can look for the icon and know if they have one or not. Or if you put one in and you didn't turn it on, okay? Quick, funny story. I have a friend, lives near me, he's a plumber. We grew up together, went to school together and all of this. He refuses to come to a class. He knows everything. He's put in hundreds of Naviens, and he has. And he's put outdoor reset in every single one of them. Well, I've been to a couple of his jobs. Parties at a friend's house. Let me see how Navien's doing. Check the error codes and all that. He has never turned a single one of them on. But he sells them, but they're not using them. Okay? So remember that. The boilers, we've always given them to you and they're programmed to be used because the government said we had to sell it that way. Now if you don't want it because you're using low temperature radiant or something, you can actually go in and shut it off. It's just the opposite of what you do to turn it on. Once you turn it on, you can pick a heat curve based on your supply or return. And you can customize it a little bit. If you know hydronics and you want this to happen in your house, or that customer's house, pick number 7 and design your own. You don't have to be stuck to what I give you. Alright? It's fully customized. All up to you what you want to accomplish. Now, the reason we're giving you these outdoor resets, let's face it, we're still installing them at 180 degrees. That is a non-condensing job. You're installing your condensing appliance in. Right? Well, when the weather outside allows, the unit's going to use lower temperatures and most likely condense more often. Because that's what I want to do. There was a study done 2 years ago by one of the colleges here in Boston. They studied 20 years of winter. You know, let's say 4 months of winter, 30 days a month, 120 days of winter. Do you know how many days of the 120 I actually need 180 to heat my house? 9. 9 days. What happened to the other 111 days? I ran at 180. I didn't need to. So that's what this is going to do. The temperatures will drop. I will most likely condense a lot more often and be more efficient. Okay? That's why we're now giving it to you, along with all the competitors are too. Right? There's your icon right in the middle, O/R. If it's illuminated, it's turned on. If it's not illuminated, it is not turned on. It's not looking for it, will never work on it. That's simple. And there's your R and S to the left. When the temperature shows on the screen, one of those will light up as well. We all know what the flame means, right? It means the burner's actually lit. If you don't see the flame, there's no fire. The radiator means it's heat mode. The faucet means domestic mode. So if you go downstairs, the unit's running, you don't know what's upstairs, what's going on. It tells you. Oh, there's a thermostat, heat call. Oh, somebody's running the hot water, I asked them not to. Okay? The wrench, we all know the wrench, right? Lights up in red, it's the error. And then when that goes out in 2 seconds, E, 3-digit show on the screen. That's your error code. All the codes are inside the cover. There are a couple numbers not in there. That's because it's important you call us. Okay? There's your air cycle. You let it do its thing. Please don't start rocker the on and off switch, please. You're going to damage something. When it lights up with air bubbles inside the heat exchanger, it fires up. Seen one today, the whole top of the heat exchanger was purple. It was supposed to be silver, it's still steel. It was all purple. Setting domestic temperature on any Navien appliance, domestic. You cannot raise the temperature if there is water flow through the unit. And that means a water heater with a recirc pump. If the recirc pump is running, the flow sensor is going to sense flow. It will not allow you to raise temperatures. They don't want you to scald your spouses. Okay. Safety thing. Oh, speaking of safety, on water heaters, we now can lock the control. Okay? Any water heater built after, I believe, September of 2016, you can flip the dip switch. It locks the temperature control. You can still do everything you want to with this control, but when you hit the plus button, the word lock shows up. It won't let you change the temperature. You have to open the cover, shut the switch, and now you can change the temperature. So it's great, tenement houses, public housing, and all of that, where the owners don't want the people, the tenants playing with the temperatures, because you know they will. We can now lock it. Okay? So any unit built after September. Now everything's a date with Navien. You all know where the serial numbers are. Right-hand side in between the barcode on that sticker. That's the serial number. Does anybody want to know how to read them? Smartphone, yeah. It knows how to read the Navien number.
I can take a picture of it.
Yeah, when it's in the corner. I'm sorry. Yes. I do that a lot because then I can zoom it in because I can't read them. You look at the number, 16 digits long. You look to the center. The year jumps out at you. 2015, 2016, 2017, right? To the right, we use the European date. So that means we go year, month, day. So the year is 2 digits. The month is 1 digit. So we do 1 through 9, X, Y, Z. Means 10, 11, 12. And then the 2 digits to the right of that one is the day of the month that that unit was actually manufactured. The first 4 digits mean nothing, so just look in the middle. Okay? So it goes month, year, month, day. European date style. Okay? That's what everything is based on with Navien. Any change that's made with Navien is based on a manufacturing date. You want to see diagnostic information real quick. Basic. You tap the mode button 3 times. Now you can scroll through this menu, A through I. Okay? You want to see diagnostic information. You tap the diagnostic man. I will tell you it starts at A again, but it doesn't end at I. It continues on. Now I get heating capacity. Hey, it's running. You want to know what percentage it's actually firing at? It tells you. Right? Flame detection value. You don't have to pull the sensor out and do an ohms test. We do it internally. Navien will tell you, hey, that's within limits. That's good. It's a good sensor. Okay. RPMs, and then APS, exhaust temperature, letter P. It's the same on all appliances. Letter P is exhaust temperature. We have a little sensor in there. So you can pull it up and see what the reading is. You know? Spec's just arguing with you. Oh, you can't use the gray stuff. You gotta use, white stuff. You gotta use gray. No, look at it. Here's my exhaust. Lock it into high fire with the dip switch. Pull up the exhaust temperature. It's not going over 149. I'm good. All right. You guys realize there's parameters in these boilers. Somebody, I'm not gonna say who. Somebody, I saw a nice picture of a Lochnavar night. You gotta program those boilers to run, right? You gotta program these boilers to run too, guys. They come from the factory, you can hook an end switch, TT call to it, and it will run. When it gets cold out, you're gonna be back if you don't do programming here in the Northeast. It's not programmed for Northeast winter. It's programmed for general average winter for the country. Okay? This year it didn't get very cold, so that's why you didn't have to go back to those boilers. When winter gets cold, you'll be back to them all to make changes. There are parameters that change the way the unit fires. In a combi boiler, there's 23 of them. There's only 4 to 5 that you should play with. The rest are fine. Same with a boiler, except there's 28 in the boiler. Okay, you don't change them all, only a couple. And I'm going to show you a couple. But first, let's talk about the test program, TST. I can run all these individual components by themselves. So I don't have to worry, because anytime this unit runs, the fan noise is there. I can't hear that the Venturi motor is grinding, because the fan is there. Well, now I can run the dual Venturi by itself, and make that butterfly valve turn, without anything else running. So now I can hear how it sounds. 3 screws, you can actually hold it in your hand and hit the button and watch it turn. Okay? That's how easy it is. The pump, right? Turn that on. You can see the pressure change. And then we go to the parameters. And you enter a password. This is a good thing, because now when you make these changes, if you change the password, which if you work for an architect or an engineer, I suggest you do. Okay? Because you know after you leave, they're going to pull the chair over and sit there with the book and start playing with it. Well, I can lock them out. When I make changes of how this unit works, because I'm the heating professional, I don't want him screwing with it. So when I leave, I'm going to change the password, so he can't get into it. But when you do this, you're going to make a cheat sheet for yourself. Because you work in the same climate, all your Navien should be set up the same. So you make a cheat sheet like you did with the Lochnavar, the Buderis, or whatever, right? You have a sheet. Every time you call Navien, you say, I want to do this, this, and this. Tell them what that sheet says. They'll tell you how to do it. You don't have to memorize how to do it. Let us tell you. And they record how you did it. Then when you change your password, you're going to tell us what it is. So if you're on vacation and your coworker goes there, you can call up, hey, what did you leave the password at? Or if I'm there, I want to know the password so I can get it through. And yes, guys, obviously, yes, there is a fail-safe password that I know. So I'm not going to use it because then you'll see me use it, and the homeowner will see me use it. Right? Navien will give it to you, but don't be surprised if they ask you to get in your truck and go to the end of the driveway with the radio up so the homeowner can't hear you. Because what are they going to do with it? Go to the internet, announce it to everybody. I got Navien's master password. And that one cannot be changed in any way. So let's not deal with that. Let's change it as many times as you want. Just make sure we know about it. All right? That way, the customer fired the other guy and they hired you. Call, hey, what's the password? Everybody does what we ask, we should know what it is. Then once you enter it, now you can go in and change things. Dashes like the A over there means disabled, shut off. So you actually want to change it so it says ORC. That means now it's able. Once you able A, you will now be able to see B. If you don't able it, you won't see B. You'll see the dashes. Pick what you want there. How about this one, E? Notice I skipped 2 letters, right? Because they're not important right now. Boost interval. In the old days, when it got cold out, we'd run around to everybody's boilers and turn up their aquastats. Because they didn't have enough heat, it got really cold out. Well, how about a boiler that does it automatically for you, and then goes back down? So, I'll let you know, my house in Brockton, Mass, I have this for 40 minutes. Okay? If my heat call does not end in 40 minutes, which it always does before, but one time my son left the door open. That zone was never satisfied, right? Well, in 40 minutes, my boiler is going to automatically add 9 degrees to my supply temperature. Now, if you did not flip number 8 up, it will still protect PVC. So if you don't have any room before 149, it won't go up. And it only goes up once per heat cycle. So because he left the door open, and now the hour goes by, it will not go up again. It just stays at that one height. When it finally does get shut off, it goes back to the normal temperature. Now it can go up again the next time it needs to. All right? And again, it should not be set that it happens every time the heat turns on. It should only be set that if you get that polar vortex and we get super cold that we're not used to, that's going to help tremendous. Okay? So like I said, my house is 40 minutes. My heat calls don't ever last that long. But in case it does, I have this program. Right? So use that. It's a cool one. Space heating. I doubt very much you put the largest unit in. How do you size it? Does anybody know? We do heat and hot water. How do you size it? Hot water always. Give the customer the hot water they need. And then because we can go in here to letter F and change my firing capacity, I don't care what size the heat side is. Give them the largest unit, gives them 4.5 gallons a minute. It's 2 showers and a left sink running simultaneously. Right? Go in, change the heat load by 1% at a time all the way to 50. So I can make my 120,000 BTU combi a 60,000 BTU combi. But it does not affect the domestic side. I still get 4.5 gallons. Okay? Every single job, I doubt very much you need a maximum of 120,000 BTU input. You should be down firing these units to match your BTUs. Because if you don't, that means we're too big, right? So we're going to heat up quick. When we heat up quick and you're not taking the heat quick enough because you don't need it, right? I'm going to overshoot my temperature, right? Make sense? If I overshoot my temperature by 2 degrees, I have this anti-cycling time. In America, that means short cycling. I'm going to prevent short cycling. I don't want to hit high temp, drop, hit high temp, drop. I'm going to shut my burners off for 3 minutes and stay off for 3 minutes. You know how long 3 minutes is when you're standing there in front of the unit waiting for it to fire up again? You're going to see temperatures from 180 go all the way down to like 123, 124 degrees before it fires up again when it's cold out. The correct way to solve the problem is not to shut this off. The correct way is to go to letter F and down fire the BTUs because obviously you don't need them. Okay? And then the pump. My internal pump, when the heat call is done, my house is satisfied, my pump's going to run for an additional 40 minutes. That's ridiculous. I would think my heat cycle might come back on before the pump shuts off. So please change this one to 3 or 4 minutes. Okay? And then the domestic water time. The 3-way valve rests in the heat mode, right? When I open a faucet, it moves. I shut the faucet, it goes back. Well, why not put 20 minutes maximum? When I open a faucet, it moves. I shut the faucet, it stays. If I don't use the hot water in 20 minutes, it goes back. If I do use the hot water within 20 minutes, it starts all over when I do shut it off. Now, as long as the water flow got shut off and a heat call comes in, it will ignore this time. So why not use the maximum? It's going to limit how many cycles a day that valve moves. Because think of how you and your family use hot water during the day and how many times that thing is going to go back and forth. We're just going to try to extend its life longer by not using it as much. That's all it's for. Okay? Auto feed pressure, just like any other boiler, because it has a feeder, you can adjust the pressure. Okay? And then this is the career English, we're going to laugh. You go through and change these parameters that I just suggested. You see the word yes, you think, yes, I need to save my changes. Well, yes means delete. Go back to the factory settings. You actually want to see the word no. No means save for this Navien problem. Our tech support knows this mistake very well. You should be on the phone when you're changing parameters. They will not allow you to delete what you just did. So please please make sure you're on the phone with them. Now, another reason to be on the phone is that one is you know it's done right because they helped you. Two is that we keep a record of that to refer to anytime you would like on that serial, because we keep that record forever. Okay? When you go to a service call, don't be shy. Pick up the phone, call Navien. Hey, I just come to this job. This is the serial number. What's been going on with this unit? And they'll tell you all the history that we know about. Because you knowing what's happened last year or the year before is going to help you today. Maybe it says, hey, every February we have this issue. Well, now you got to figure out, why is it only in February we have this issue? Don't always assume it's the unit. Right? What's happening every February that this problem happens? Be a technician, not a parts changer. Learn to troubleshoot and figure out why did it happen. Don't just replace a bad part, because you may end up replacing it again. Why is it going bad? You should want to know that. These units aren't built to fail. Sometimes they do. Just like a car. They don't deliberately make them to fail, but sometimes it does. And figure out why is it doing it. And solve the actual problem. Change the password. Now, maintenance. The heat side strainer on the combi boiler. Don't ever check it unless you're showing a problem, the sign of a problem. Why do I say that? Closed loop heating systems. We spend a lot of money on devices and chemicals to keep that water air-free and contaminant-free. Why do you want to drain it out and add fresh water full of contaminants and air every year just to look at a screen? Now, if I have temperature problems and pressure problems, now I want to look at the screen. But if I'm not having any of that, don't do it. You could cause an issue by adding that fresh water. Don't do it. Unless you're showing a sign of a flow problem. Then you would want to do this. But other things you do want to do every single year is your water screen, right? Your air screen, that's very important to get air, right? Top left of the unit, air screen, clean it out. Depending what's in it, maybe you want to look at where the intake's coming from. If it's near the lights that come on at night, we're a vacuum cleaner when we turn on it. It sucks air in. If it's near a light and the bugs are flying around, we're going to suck the bugs in. They do get caught in the screen. Enough bugs blocks your airflow, now the unit shuts off. There's no air. Simple, right? Error codes are listed on the inside the covers. Just because now you know what the code is, please call us and let us help you solve it. Because we want the history. That's how we make the history, by you calling. Tech support. We have a call center in New Jersey, call center in California. Because of the time difference in this country, we luck out. We're open 7 days a week. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Saturday, Sunday, and every single holiday, they're 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Christmas and New Year's are the only 2 days nobody will answer a phone because nobody's there. Hopefully you're not working either. Okay? Any other holiday, they're there. Any weekend, they're there. Okay? They're there for your assistance. They like setting up units, registering units, and setting up the parameters. Because it's a different call. It's not stressful like a troubleshoot call is in the middle of the winter. Okay? Now, a couple tips with tech support. They're people like you. Doesn't mean they can't be wrong. If you can talk through why you are right and they're wrong, it's fine. They can do that. They're people. They learn things just like you. If you have a better way to test something, explain it to them. This is how I figured out what the issue is. Right? You need them to agree to get the right parts. And by all means, you know, there are people higher up than them. And if you absolutely have to, we have both coasts. There's almost 80 people now. You hang up and call back, most likely you will not get the same guy. Okay? So, the other thing is they may put you on hold because they got to consult with the senior technician, the supervisors, right? And depending on how your conversation went, they put you on hold and you start running your mouth to your buddy. All calls are voice recorded. When they put you on hold, all they do is mute their mic. They still can hear what you say. Okay? And I know this for a fact because it happened to me.
Put me on hold.
So I'm letting you know, please don't run your mouth until after you hang up the call. Because I was one of you, I don't have patience, I don't have all of that, okay? I have a short temper, you can imagine that. So, please be aware of that, guys. Because of the recording, when it gets bad, powers to be, listen to the calls, and they find out you're the actual asshole, not him. Okay? And then, believe me, it goes through the company like wildfire. And your calls from now on are not gonna go as pleasant, or as fast, or as easy as everybody else's calls. It's a fact of life, right? Not saying that it's right, I'm not condoning it in any way, but let's just face it, it happens. Our website, anybody ever go to our website? There's all kinds of information there, okay? There's diagrams, especially water heater diagrams. If you're doing multiple water heaters, please download the drawing. It's under the architect tab though, all the drawings, okay? There's little videos, if you guys do sales, you can have a customer look at the video before you get there. It'll explain a lot of shit before you get there. Saves time on you, okay? All the manuals are there. If you want to download a manual, keep it on your smartphone or your iPads, your computers, not have a written copy. That's how I have all my diagrams. Not diagrams, sorry, books, install manuals and stuff. Visit the website, check it out. Get latest information, different shows around the country, plumbing, heating shows, AC shows, restaurant shows. Sometimes they list them there, all right? Use your source here. Economy is one of our best distributors, believe it or not, for a single store. They sell a shitload. And then the rep, and obviously myself in the area. Okay? We're here to help, not against you. As long as we follow the policy, everything goes smoothly. It's when you try to design your own policy that shit hits the fan. And you end up losing in the end. Because that's what Korea says. Korea says, well, they didn't follow our policy. Try to follow the policy, we help you do it, it goes smoothly. Well, I for one, I'm all set. Everybody was able to sign in? How many people? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Yeah, a couple people were there.
Anybody have any questions? Now that we're done with that? Come on. I can't believe it. What's that?
No, I know how to turn it on, so reset on.
All those ones have them?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, I appreciate your time, guys. Please, I think there's plenty of pizza if you want to take some home. Yep.
I love it. I got oil.
Yeah. You just gotta put a dirt rust up right on this gentleman. He just did the same thing.
He's gonna do an Earth Max thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate seeing you. Yes, yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah.
Take care.
It's gonna be efficient. Run a propane and
Yes.
We have heat pumps. Heat pumps. That'll do primarily.
The efficiency doesn't change, natural gas or propane. So you're still at 95%.
You consume a shitload if you try to heat up gas.
No.
It'll take a lot, but then you save, right?
Right,
You change it.
right.
So.
It doesn't base board or cast iron, it's 180 degrees, whatever.
Depends on the basement, cast
Yeah,
iron upstairs.
it doesn't matter.
Split transfer should be able to do.
The only thing you gotta worry about is you need to put some, like you just said, the dirt rust on it. And I would suggest before you pull the old boiler,
Yeah.
put in a chemical that's gonna treat the piping. And then when you're done, you drain it out, put the new one in. Yeah.
Just do them, not get into the old shit.
I don't know what they sell here, but Fernox is awesome.
Yeah, I hear that.
They have the treatment that cleans everything, then the inhibitor after, and then they have the magnet separator. You can buy it all as a kit. It's a F1, F5, and F3, I think.
All right, thank you. I call around about that.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Not
thank
a
you.
problem. Yeah.
Take it sleepy.
Yeah.
On the side, you put a vacuum brake, right?
No vacuum brake isn't required on a tank.
But
You can, but there's no need to.
So we really don't have to put that on here?
No, it's not required, it's not a tank. It's only required for a tank, because if you try to drain a tank without it, you collapse the tank.
I really don't have to put that on there?
That's fine.
Brake on it.
Yeah, you can, it's not gonna hurt anything. I don't think it's only a couple dollars. You can save the T and you save the valve.
Okay, but if I stay with it, would it be any harm?
No, no harm at all.
That's why I didn't.
Yeah, if it ain't broken.
Okay.
Oh, it was you?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
You know what you just asked me a question? If you look at the instructions.
The training's 3 times a month. I don't do them, because I do the travel ones. But if you go to the website
Because
and pick Training Academy, it'll give you the dates. That's the website. And then Training Academy, make sure you pick New Jersey. And then whatever month you're thinking, July, it'll show you the calendar, you pick the class, it'll tell you the 5 seats left. And you either register or you go to.
No, this is the same thing.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think
you register right online.
I think
It's
that's
$310, 2 nights hotel, all of
So
your
you did
meals,
with
parts
What they say,
and the
the
training.
inspectors always.
Yeah, it's definitely. And then talk with the economy guys, if you can get a group of guys, you go together, it's real fun.
Because I have,
Even though it
the
doesn't-
people that want to watch so sometimes we.
most of them are pretty good.
Right, yeah,
Like you said, I said to them, I leave my broke this
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
because if I never do this, I say leave. Oh.
right. Yeah, it's a fun time.
Yeah.
Treat you good, you get some goodies.
Yeah, but
Nah,
you
man.
know,
I don't know if they're giving out now, but usually 4 or 5 different things, t-shirts, cups, long screwdrivers, which help a lot in Navien.
All right, so I spoke
All
to you
right,
next
great.
time. All right,
Yes.
okay.
Question, I just missed that, water,
Yep,
you said now's the best.
always turn it on. That's all you need to know. Always turn well pump on.
Does it have one in Newton? Put a regulator in?
Yeah,
I didn't know what
yeah, no problem.
We're gonna go to New Jersey, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you read the installation, believe it or not, I read the That's
good,
That's
that's
from age.
That's good, yeah.
Make the mistakes first. But it actually tells you specifically that Massachusetts requires a vacuum going into the domestic.
But actually, they don't.
But I know the code doesn't, so you don't
Right,
need a vacuum.
right, no.
You
do
know,
not.
Mass code doesn't require.
Right.
No, hot water heater or?
No,
Oh, no,
tankless.
hot water heater.
On
The tank heater does, because if it collapses, it'll
Right,
make it.
water heater. No, and I could, after I saw that, I checked with the board.
Yeah.
At the time, Wayne Thomas was still working, he left now.
Yes, I know.
And we talked about it, and then I let them know.
Yeah, water heater, you do need it.
Yes.
Oh, regular water heater.
No, not even
On
one.
a tank, a tank water heater, you
Only on
need
the
to
tank.
vacuum.
No.
No,
Okay,
tank.
Not on the knob.
But I saw it the other day, and I said, I'm not gonna do it, because our code doesn't require it.
Right, exactly. Korea misinterpreted, because you notice that's the only state that has a page in it.
It is.
Because they said, well, to get product approval, we want this in the manual. And they just misinterpreted.
One other item we covered, using polypropylene when you want to go above 149 degree return temperature.
Yeah.
For example, the way Burnham, around here, the gas company, who do the conversion from oil to gas, they give them a reduced price on the Burnham out pipe,
Right.
for example.
I do know that, yeah.
Okay. And the way they get around that is they do have a piece of CPVC coming in. And then you can roll PVC.
Right.
You've gone the
They give you
required
the
3
fur
feet.
coat too.
And they give you the fur coat.
Right, and that, know why that FINCO is allowed there? That means because it came from the manufacturer. If it didn't come from the manufacturer, and you bought it, you can't use it.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. It's because it's part of the manufactured unit. Like,
The two jobs I'm doing at the moment, I don't need it. I've been on cast iron radiator, 169, I'll never get that done. I always.
I always, before all of this, I always set them up for return temperature 140.
Oh, no, oh my God.
The supply, based on that, depending on how cold it is, my supply is gonna change.
Oh, sure.
And then I condense all the time, and I never got a complaint that that house didn't heat properly.
Yeah, I'll be happy with you.
Because a lot of the older houses, they didn't do heat losses like they do today. My grandfather and father used to walk around, 8, 6, 5.
Yeah.
There was no math or science.
No.
So most houses over radiated already, so
But-
that's why it doesn't.
Here's how you can get caught. If they over radiated already, if I go in to do another couple of rooms or something, I do a net ABR heat loss
Yeah.
on the existing.
Because you're smart.
And then I check the coefficient of what they installed versus what they required.
Yeah.
And if they put 30% too much in, I'm putting 30% more in if I'm on the same zone. Otherwise, we have issues. You know?
I don't. I put
Anyway,
in what.
when you get old, you learn all
Yeah.
these things. Usually the hard way.
Well, I do the heat loss, because
Yeah.
it's not me, it's my wholesale.
Sure.
And then I also do the math for what's in existing, and I compare the two.
And you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. And if you don't, you're gonna get caught.
Right. And most people get caught.
Now, you want to go off and do another zone, you're typically okay. Providing you're using light material.
Right.
This job, I got a red color copper baseboard, was tied in with extremely large column cast iron.
Oh,
radiator.
jeez.
Needless to say, that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on its own though.
Well, thanks for coming.
All right, thanks for all the information, it's very helpful.
No problem.
I got one venting question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nice to see you again.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good, yourself?
Nice to see you.
I just saw you at the show the other day.
Yes, yes,
We
yes.
have another couple of NCBs.
Oh, good.
Started today.
Oh, good, good. Working out well for you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no,
You've been doing it.
I've used it, right. So that means,
Yeah. Good.
if I'm more than 10 feet, I never tell him.
I don't know why.
I would still,
Why is 20 feet?
I don't know, there's no
I'm doing
distance
what
20
I
feet.
just
Go,
putting
putting
in
in all.
And I'm thinking then I was
Fernox filter it. I cleaned it with chemical, Fernox. and I got
Well, you don't